I'm pro AI with it being secure because, again, it goes back to processes need to be usable and save time. Most of the time, security teams are very small. We do not have a lot of money. And the use of AI allows us to be really what we want to be. We want to be able to do a lot of things, and we have to take a list and go off of the risks and see what we can. With the utilization of AI and secure agentic AI, we can actually do things quicker. I mean, quick plug to your tool. When I was at Infor and running the security portion for FedRAMP, I mean, I was just talking with someone about this today, but tools like yours, and I've even told your sales team, they're also mental health tools, because 9 times out of 10, if you're working on a GRC team and you're responsible for FedRAMP or CMMC, you're working outside of your hours if you don't have some type of tool that helps you build that documentation.
Hey everyone, it's another Paramify Podcast. Really excited for today's guest. We have Justin Merhoff, who is the Executive vCISO lead at our great partner Rhymetec. We're so excited to talk to him today. Justin has over 28 years of experience, including 20 years in the U.S. Army. He specializes in sales-enabled security. He's a leading advocate for accessible cybersecurity, and I want to talk a lot about that. He's operating on the principle that if a security tool isn't usable for everyone, it creates a hole in the defense. Justin, thanks so much for joining. This has been a long time coming, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We have been trying to plan this for over a year now. And so anyways, we're just going to get right into it. Justin, your career's almost 3 decades now. I'm getting there as well. I've been doing this for a long time. Looking back at a career that's 3 decades, how did you first get into cyber?
I'm glad that you asked, and this is going to show my age a little bit, but it's also for a little bit of comic relief. I'm a little bit of a spy nerd. I really liked spy type of movies and novels. And when I was looking at going into the Army in 1996, because I didn't want my grandfather to pay for my college, and he got what was then before the Montgomery GI Bill, but basically that's how he paid for his school and medical school. So I wanted to be self-sufficient, and I went against his wishes and signed up for the Army because that's not what he wanted me to do. When I was selecting my role, and what I wanted to do in the military, it was literally on a laser disc, Kenny. This was in
Whoa,
1996. Yeah.
whoa.
And, um, I was a huge
1996.
fan of, True Lies, and when I was watching the laser disc, the role was a soldier that was in back of a comm van. So it was like Tom Arnold's character, and I never thought of myself as the spy. I always thought of myself as the supporting character and being able to support, them, and that's why I signed up for it. So
Yeah.
when I selected that role, it wasn't as cool as I thought it was. It definitely wasn't supporting spies, but supporting the military, and that's where my role started. So I was, um, maintaining encryption and doing, communications through, comm vans, and this was back when to encrypt things, you were using pull tape. I don't know if you're, familiar with it, but it was perforated tape that you would pull through a device. So every month, to make sure that the communication was encrypted, all of the units would have to get a segmented, perforated tape and load that into the encryption device at the same time. And if someone skipped, everyone would have to skip. So if everyone was supposed to do Series A for the month of July, and someone made a mistake and went to B, everyone had to go to B. So we would all be able to talk at the same time. Um, and even back
Whoa.
then,
I didn't know about that.
yeah,
I actually had no idea.
yeah.
Yeah.
And back then, I was in charge of I was the password reset. So I had a binder of all of the units, usernames and passwords back when secure email was just starting and email was starting to be utilized in a massive scale. That we're talking 1997, 98. And the rule back then was as long as it was behind two locks, so a locked room and a locked um, uh, drawer cabinet. Couldn't think of the word, but the cabinet. Then it was secure. But think about that: one person for the unit. Think of insider threat there, right? Like,
Right.
yes, I had a security clearance, but a lot could go wrong. Now thinking back to that time, so that's how far back my career goes. And another thing to share I thought was very interesting is that I think for the most part, people that come from a military background in security, not everyone, but I think they tend to be a little heavy-handed when they're applying security to organizations. And I definitely took part in that. One thing that I did during one of my deployments was when we caught people utilizing phones or iPods back then in the secure area, uh, they were confiscated and we put nails through them on a board. And you would walk into the entrance and you would see people's iPhones and iPods
Whoa.
hanging with a nail through it. I wouldn't be caught dead touching someone's personal property now, and the legal implications of that, even in the service. Um, but I share that just to share that my um,
Well,
the my background in security is goes the gambit, and I think having that background from the government and the DoD definitely helped me when I transferred into corporate America in 2017. And I didn't learn until I went to college that I was a servant leader, but even in the service, I was always cross-functional, helping with other people, helping them so that it could help me as well. And not just for that reason, but I knew that I had for for me to be successful, others had to be successful. And um, making processes easy to use. And another core thing I think to share was that I learned from the service was even in the seat that you sit in now, you should be preparing for your replacement. And that's not meaning that I'm going to leave this current role anytime soon. But if you go into it with that mentality, you don't want to, your replacement should be, it, you should make it better for the person that is going to be your replacement. Prepare for them because if you're going to replace someone, you would want that to be done for you. And that in the service, I was moving different roles every 2 to 3 years. So I went, help desk. I was always usually in a non-windowed building or vehicle, um, and just going back and forth through those. It taught me, like, to work with others, and then, yeah, I could just keep going, but that's definitely my background.
okay, so first off, you mentioned two things that I'm just kind of interested in. So the first thing is True Lies. What a flick, dude. So funny. It
Yeah,
still holds up.
I know,
Tom
it's so
Arnold's
good.
character, hilarious. Yeah, maybe she
So
was sleepy.
can I tell you a quick story about that?
Yes.
So, when I was deployed in Afghanistan, I was at what is now, well, it's not that anymore, but it was called, Forward Operating Base Fenty, but it's in the town of Jalalabad, Afghanistan. And, I'm sure you're familiar with USO tours. They would bring in actors to do, like, meet and greets and such. And so it wasn't planned, but, Tom Arnold was with, I forget his name, he has a podcast as well, but he was on a USO tour and, their plane was having some, issues, so they had to land at, Jalalabad. And, I swear this is not made up, but they were going around while they're waiting for the plane to be fixed, and they went up to the air traffic control tower. And in Afghanistan, buying black market DVDs is the norm, like, you do it all the time. The air traffic control tower team was watching, Soul Plane while he walked into the air traffic control tower. on black market copy. I just always thought that was really funny. Oh, he was with Dax Shepard on the USO
Okay.
tour, so I got to meet both of them, and I just
Awesome.
thought that was it was. And I told him the story um, of why I entered the service was because of him, and he thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. That movie is so hilarious. I saw it. I have one of those weird memories. If I see it, it's just recorded. It's kind of
Hmm.
audiographic. So I'll like throw now, like what? That was like early 90s when that came
Hmm.
out, right?
Probably
Wasn't it?
94,
Or
95, right?
yeah, 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 like mid 90s. And so I'll pull off like some of the quotes from that. Um like every now and again, and it's always the Tom Arnold quotes, right? Or I love when Jamie Lee Curtis is interrogating
Ye-
Arnold's character and he's just like, "Have you ever killed anyone?" "Yeah, but they were all bad." That's like so good, man. And
Yes.
people, you can say that and no one knows that you're just ripping off Arnold Schwarzenegger these days. Because I work
I know,
around a
right?
lot of young people now, so it's like they think I
So they
have all
don't
these
get the
brilliant
reference.
quotes. Yeah, they don't. Like, man, Kenny's funny, but I'm just like using old 90s references and stuff like that. So
I
anyway,
do the same.
that's it's awesome. Yeah, so you're in your army service when you were managing IT and cyber operations in Afghanistan, in Belgium, South Korea,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so you saw lots of stuff. W- you talked about one thing that changed, that evolved for sure, was the way that things are encrypted. Series
Right.
A and Series B. That's not venture capital you're talking about. You're talking about
No.
encryption.
Right.
Okay. What
Well, I was just
else
referring to
is
like the tapes. Like you would have
yeah,
like they'd be lettered and numbered, and if you, I just kind of went with that. But if you skipped, you would end up messing up everyone. And this is secure comms, so troop movement, flights, everything would be affected if you made that mistake.
wow. Did that happen often, or was there like lots of procedure that you had to like just
The
follow?
procedure, so for the most part, I'm glad you brought it up. For the most part, it didn't happen in my career. I remember it happening a few times, in different areas. So when I was in Europe is the time I'm remembering, is one of the units went ahead and skipped a month on accident. So then everyone in the area had to get up to that so that we could talk with secure communications.
Wow. And so, when did you guys like post-mortem things like that? Were those considered like incidents, or would you, um,
Yes, they were, and we would do training, not as officially as I think it's evolved, like when you're doing like a BCDR and IR, and even back then, they weren't called that, but we did, scenarios where, things go haywire and how we would react, and we would do an after action review of when things happened. So it wasn't like formal. It to what I remember, it wasn't like we were following what would now be an incident response policy or BCDR, but we were doing that. Like the functions were the same. It wasn't called that at the time. But yes, we
got it.
definitely had to follow procedure.
Got it. Yeah. And one other thing, I know this is kind of going out of order, but you mentioned you
You're
were
fine.
like into spy books as well.
Yeah.
What what is the spy book that you still go back to and you're like, man, that was one of my favorites? Or
Anything by James Patterson, or I'm trying to remember, 007 for sure.
yeah,
Um, there's another series, I think it's Alex Cross, that might be the James Patterson one, but those are the ones that I like and have read pretty
sick.
well. And one of the cool things was, in the service, you know, everybody back home would take care of us. So we would get books sent to us for free, and they would be at like USO, or we'd have like little mock libraries built. And, you take a book and give a book back, and, people would go through them. And I definitely read a lot of James Patterson when I was deployed.
Did you ever have a scenario where in real life you had a scenario you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is like that James Patterson book." Like where there was kind of an
Um,
analogy, or no,
there were
not really ever?
there were a couple, without getting into the specifics, because we were communications. That was one cool thing about my job, was that We did get to support um, some three-letter agencies and like the special forces and the Rangers for the Army and some of the Navy SEALs. And one thing I do not claim to be them at all, but one thing that I noticed and picked up on leadership wise was that they can operate singly, but they work great as a team. And they don't, it's no BS. Like in the regular army, you have to follow all these rules, right? And they're in there, they're for a reason, but they just get the job done. You tell them a task and they figure it out. And I
Yeah.
definitely liked working with them. So there were a couple times where it did seem like that. Um, but yeah, it was cool to support them for sure, but not as cool as they're in the books.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So you were at DQ for a little bit, right? And
Yep.
you were the director. Yeah. And so was that your first stint um, after the army or?
No, so
No.
when I was in the army, we used semantic devices, and
Okay.
in 2017, I got an opportunity to work for LifeLock, and that was right when
Mm.
Symantec Norton bought them. And I thought, because during my service, one of the things I did actually in Afghanistan is I flew around with the team, and we did on-site audits. And it wasn't just an audit to audit them; it was also to teach them things that we have learned and learn things from them that we could then apply to the other teams and make sure that their comms are secure. And I thought that auditing would be my thing, so I took an internal audit job, at Symantec LifeLock, and I
Mm.
quickly learned that I wanted to have more of a piece into building a program, because taking a step back, when I was in, the Army, I was working towards when they first, stood up the cyber, um, military occupational skill or job, MOS in the Army, and I
Mm.
didn't make it fully through the program, but I got to go through 5 different GSEC courses, and they do it very fast. And I only got my GSEC. But when I was going through the GSEC course, I distinctively remember learning about ROI. And I mean, I understood budgets, but we didn't really, you just got what you were assigned, or you asked for what you needed and you got it. The whole ROI piece didn't really make sense to me. I didn't need that. Um, And that was the impetus of me wanting to go more corporate. It wasn't that I thought that I know everything in the government as it pertains to cybersecurity. I just felt like I wanted to do a new thing and a new challenge, and I felt like I could do it. And that's why um, brand recognition, right? Like Symantec, I knew it very well, and I got the opportunity to work there, and it was really awesome. And then after that, I went to an organization called RevSpring, and why that was a good fit for me, was not only was I doing data security, I was doing physical security as well. So we actually had a print floor, and watching, PII and PCI and, PHI data being mailed out to people and everything, and making sure that that's secure on top of making sure that the data is secure. And then my whole career since then, have been trying to put myself into leadership positions to where I could help make a change. And DQ was the first time where I was the director, essentially the head of security there, formalizing the security. They had security in place, but bringing them, making the program ISMS, and fully standing that up, was again, another challenge. And you talked about the sales enablement piece. Part of my interviewing was going through an RFP, RFI questionnaire and how I would deal with that. And the two things that I brought there was I brought them up to their certification, and I got the program to be more formalized. And I'm very proud you can still go to it today. I stood up their trust center at trust.dq.com, little plug for them. And that's still helping clients today. I've taught a couple of their AEs have given me kudos personally that they're still getting accolades from that, helping um, their clients, because security, we need to be protecting people, but at the same time, when you're doing it for a business, you need to understand that security is business and is part of business enablement. And we're not supposed to just be the office of no. We're not supposed to be um, just one little piece and off to the side. We're a part of the business, and security should be in all parts of the business, not just during audit period.
100%. Yeah, trust centers are really the focus these days, and they
Yeah.
are evolving, right? It kind of it feels like in a lot of ways in our industry, the ground is kind of shifting beneath our feet for everyone. You have
Hmm.
incredible advancements in AI, which are really
Yes.
exciting and terrifying for some people, but they're super exciting for, especially if you're in cyber. The challenges that arise with agentic behavior and how you have to lock that down and how SOCs work. That's one thing, right? But also what we expect from trust centers is going to be changing, right? Because you can't
Oh,
go to
yes.
any what you can't go to a trust center today that ever shows me that something's wrong. It's always like A
Right.
pluses across the board, and it's like,
Everything's
oh, we do
green.
this,
Right.
and it feels like AI just wrote the trust center, right? It's just like all green. How do you
Right.
see trust centers evolving in the next, 6 months to a year to maybe like next couple of years? I feel like they're gonna change fast.
I think we're connected because I swear I was so excited. I wanted to talk about this topic. So I'm a little bit of a futurist, and it might not be within the next 6 months or a year, but two things. I think that trust centers, and they're already working towards that, but trust centers need to be more self-usable by by the potential client and current client, for their third party risk team to take care of the questionnaire on their own. Feed it in, if they have an actual questionnaire or a site, point it to it through an API, have it pull. I believe there's an organization, forget their name, but I talked to them that they're actually doing this. They're meshing it to where these kind of connections can be in place. And I think that's going to happen where they just say, hey, you know, it's annual third party risk time. Let's make the connect. Let's go through the connection and pull what we need to. This is what's missing. And then just ask for what you need. A lot more self service. Um, I think you're seeing, just from the trust centers itself, you're seeing what I believe, and again, this is a newer thing. I did not believe in security transparency my whole career, but especially from a business perspective, um, you have to be some type of transparent, not completely, but you need to prove to your clients and your users that you are doing security. And that goes to my second point. I personally believe that, and I want to champion this, that I want to help end buyers start looking at who they buy from and see if they have a trust center. They might not know what a SOC is or an ISO 27001, but if they don't even have a trust center or a security page, you might want to question that they even have it in place. Because if they have all that, that was the other cool thing about trust centers. Yes, trust centers show what a business security posture is like, but it's also rewarding to the security team because it's showing our work. It's proving that we actually did something. We're a lot of times we're
Mhm.
just brought in to potentially get someone through a certification, and that takes a lot of work. And being able to
Mhm.
highlight that work and show that it's continuous, it's not just a single point in time, is rewarding to the team as well.
What kind of things are you gonna be looking for when because you purchase security tools, you use cloud services, even in
Mhm.
your job today, and you help people implement these things, I get it.
Yes.
What are the things you're looking at specifically to see, um, that continuation, that continuous validation? What are you looking for? What do you think the expectation is gonna be?
I mean, if they don't
You
have a
know,
trust center, I mean, that's a first go. I mean, if that doesn't exist,
you're
and if they're not able to populate that, then that also tells me that they don't have a continuous GRC program that can provide me the information that I need. And
yep.
then second, um, we'll touch on AI. Like I, I- I'm pro AI with it being secure, because again, it goes back to processes need to be usable and save time. Most of the time, security teams are very small. We do not have a lot of money. And the use of AI allows us to be really what we want to be. We want to be able to do a lot of things, and we have to take a list and go off of the risks and see what we can. With the utilization of AI and secure agentic AI, we can actually do things quicker. I mean, quick plug to your tool, you know, um, back when I was at Infor and running the security portion of for FedRAMP, I mean, I was just talking with someone about this today. Some people might think this is corny, but tools like yours, and I've even told your sales team, um, they're also mental health tools, because 9 times out of 10, if you're working on a GRC team and responsible for FedRAMP or CMMC, you're working outside of your hours if you don't have some type of tool that helps you build that documentation. The POAM submissions to the JAB when it existed were the bane of my existence.
Oh, oh, I share that pain.
So they're the poems would literally make your eyes bleed. And what's funny is, since I've been doing this for 28 years, even my teammates, when I'm working with them, because people that work for me are my teammates, we're all on the same line. Um, I would get caught sometimes of putting myself through spreadsheet hell, where they would tell me, like, "You can automate this, Justin. You don't have to go through cell by cell looking at things." But I was so used to doing that and having to teach myself and being a forever learner. And now being at Rhymetec and being able to utilize um, Paramify, not just for one organization, but multiple, and in multiple fields as well. I'm able to see how it supports a manufacturing company per se, or a SaaS organization going for FedRAMP, um, instead of just utilizing it at one organization. Um, so hopefully that answered what you were.
I love working with partners.
Yeah, partnerships. Uh, if you're allowed, to me, when people just buy vendors, that's another thing I wanna see change. It should be a partnership both ways. And if someone's just reaching out to me on LinkedIn
Mhm.
and thinks that I'm gonna do a call and buy something, you need to do a little bit more work, to build that relationship and connection. And I'm not trying to do a shameless plug, but shout out to Xavier. Like, when we were at DQ, we were we were focused on buying Paramify, and the company went a different direction, and they weren't going towards FedRAMP. So he lost that sale, but I'm still in connection with him today. And I was a little surprised when I came to Rhymetec, because I literally, Kenny, I had Paramify on I was like, partnership, let's go. And you already had it signed. I was like, frick, you guys beat me
Heck
to the
yeah,
punch.
I love it. It is awesome, and it's because of people like you. It's we get to work together. We're all
Yeah.
trying to solve this. There are so many people in this space, and we're all trying to make this easier. And it's just so fun. I
Yep.
get to wear. I
I
always
agree.
say, man, we got our tap shoes to work every day. I love it.
Yep.
Um, yeah, well, thanks so much for that.
Of
Now
course.
you also had experience in the jab, right? Because you were doing,
Yes.
the bane of your existence, right? Um, yeah. So the jab's sunset now.
Yep.
Um, do you feel like we're losing any rigor going into 20x, or do you feel like it's more of the more important things that we're focused
I
on?
I was literally talking about this the other day. I think what Pete's doing is punk rock, but punk rock in a good way. We need the change. We can we still have a
Yep.
mission to keep things secure,
Oh,
but
uh,
if, like, let's say
yeah.
a unit in the army needs to purchase this new AI powered tool that is just is amazing and is doing great things for the commercial and public, the non-government sector. They're just supposed to wait two
Oh, right.
years before they can use it. Like, that doesn't make any freaking sense. And there's a way to um, perform the
So,
checks like they're doing in 20x without um, all of the bureaucracy that was happening. And at the same time, it's all about risk. I mean, people drive,
mm,
fly, and go on boats.
mm,
You're doing a risk assessment
mm,
and assigning risk every day.
good.
Why wouldn't you apply that to what you're purchasing? And it also doesn't just it it helps the market help the government as well, but it also puts onus on the agency because if they want to utilize a tool, they need to make sure that they're properly checking the risk, even beyond the fact that they're FedRAMP 20x. But also too, it's you know a lot the time frame that FedRAMP had in the past. um, I think the biggest bog down was getting an agency to sponsor you. And um, I won't say the specific agencies, but even the people within the agency, they're supposed to, by mandate, have people that are supposed to help them through the FedRAMP process. And I was dealing with one agency that the individual who was working with us trying to sponsor us literally met the person the day before they were leaving the agency, and he helped guide her to who the new person was that was replacing him. But why did it take so long for them to make that connection? And then how much business was being halted because they couldn't buy the tool that they wanted to buy? So
Yeah,
I like the direction that they're going.
yeah, 100%. I do think that it's gonna work. I just,
Yep.
I know that it is punk rock, and again, this we were just talking about the ground shifting beneath our feet. That's just something you got to get used to when we're experiencing this kind of change at the rate of
Yep.
change that we're experiencing. We kind of get used to it, and I love it. It makes it really exciting. I think that it's gonna work. I can already see it working. We're in the
Yep.
cohort 1 of phase 2 right now, and that's been submitted, and it's being reviewed, and we already have agencies going like, "Oh, can you add us like to the?"
Right.
And we're like, "This is awesome," because they're buying into. So there are agencies that are buying into this. There's a narrative that agencies aren't gonna want it. Yes, they will. Once they have the tools to assess it, it's totally gonna work. I'm super pumped.
Right.
And yeah, you get away from this manual, high friction era of authorization, and you can go
Right.
through and you can get to really true, continuous trust center. You know, I think that's just it's absolutely imperative that we get there,
And it's going
right?
to lead to innovation, right? Because cybersecurity, I don't think, was ever meant to be as rigid as it has become. We have to remember that there was no Kevin Mitnick didn't take a cybersecurity course, right? This was all built on trial and error and thinking outside the box. And I always like trying to bring that back up because we've I'll cut out. I'm waiting for the video to come back. So we've turned the cybersecurity industry into an industry, and I've been in the past few years, I like to refer to it as a practice. And that's another thing I think that I honestly would love to see, and some people might disagree with me, but having something like a bar for lawyers or for doctors, um, and to prove that you can do certain things, um, beyond just a certification because people can take tests. But I think or even I don't know much about it, but even like how electricians have to go through an apprenticeship. I think that should be really how we do it. And the whole, you know, again, this might upset freaking it's going out. I'll pick back up. This might upset some people, but I believe the old way of getting into cybersecurity where you have to do IT, you have to do this one role, and maybe you meet the person that runs security and they might just give you a chance. Those days are gone. Yes, you need to understand um, IT, you need to understand networking, you need to understand those basics to be able to secure it. But in my mind, the 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 minds that we need in cybersecurity are forever learners and are agile thinkers that are willing to make a pivot. The fact that FedRAMP 20x is making that kind of change, that's, some people don't like that change. But cybersecurity is forever
Yeah.
changing. The attacks are changing daily, multiple times a day. So we need to change with that or we're going to be behind.
Yeah. And Justin, I love what you're saying here because you brought up the types of leaders that we're seeing that are really making changes.
Mhm.
So we've got Pete who took this sabbatical, for like a really, really long time, right?
Right.
Not doing anything related to cyber, but he's really big on that. He's like, I'm just like wandering around. I'm just like observing. I'm decompressing.
Right.
I'm, you're forming your ideas about things, and you've had a long time to wander, and you have interest in the spy novels, and there's a lot of depth to your experience, especially in cyber. You need that depth to be a leader where you are right now, like leading as a vCISO, right? You need that kind of depth for sure. But I like, you need to be able to just wander around. I feel like I'm like the worst fit for cybersecurity, yet, we have an approach that's actually really helpful for
Right.
cybersecurity leaders. Is because you just need to look at things differently. If you're looking for check boxes, there's plenty of people who can do that.
Right.
You can just follow a rote script and you can just execute it. But that's not really going to solve for real risk that we're dealing with today.
No.
Um,
And I'll add,
yeah,
look, can I add to that? But like you said, the wandering, right? Like learning from different things, learning from your children, learning from others, learning from watching things, reading things, doing things that are not even cybersecurity related could actually help you. I remember we were doing a CTF a few years ago, and one of the members of my team was in his 50s at the time, and I actually did get a little pushback initially on his age. And I said, look at his body of work, and he's a forever learner. I mean, he knows a lot more about things than I do. And when we were doing the CTF, um, we were trying to find the flag, and we kept doing what we thought to do, like look for things that we were taught in cybersecurity. And he looks at the subject line of the email. He goes, "No freaking way." And we all stopped. We're like, "What? What?" He goes, "It's Morse code. They're using the forwards and the re's as dots and dashes, and that's how we found the flag." And I would have never known that. Like, I know of Morse code, but I've never utilized it. But because he'd utilized it before in the past, I believe as a firefighter, he knew what it looked like and could see that. And that's a key, right? If someone wants to be an incident response and um, they never have been in cybersecurity before and they wanted to learn something new, if you work in an ER, I think you'd be perfect to do incident response because you're already used to dealing with high stress situations and being able to operate in those situations. And that's why when I'm mentoring or connecting with others that are breaking into cybersecurity, um, it does upset me sometimes that that old way of thinking is usually what they're told, like, "You need to do this," or "You're getting out of the service, so you're probably not gonna get a corporate job. You're probably not gonna get a leadership job. You need to, you know, in a sense, pay your penance and get an analyst job." It's like, "No, you freaking led a whole SOC in the service. Why couldn't you do that in corporate America?" Um, so I just think as leaders, we need to relook at things as well and understand that we can learn from people that are breaking in regardless of their age. I mean, I know an individual who started in cybersecurity at 13 years old. They're 18 now and they're kicking butt and they're running circles around people that have been in this for years and and never did formal, getting an IT degree and do the she literally was hacking things for when, COVID happened during school so she could show that she was online, like, that she just did it by doing, and I think we need to share that mindset, and the other part, I think I talked about it earlier, is I learned even though I didn't know I was doing it, when I was in the service, I was applying servant leadership where my success was through my team's success. If they weren't successful, I wasn't successful. So yes, I was their leader, but you can be a leader, but also have them be in line with you. And I think servant leadership, what I learned in college that I was doing, I personally think that of leadership styles, if you're not applying servant leadership in cybersecurity, you're behind. And uh, uh, I'll give you an example of that, not just to your team, but a lot of these policies that we have, you know, it puts it on the security team when it comes to like disciplinary action when someone makes a mistake, right? I'll advise you on what they did, but that's an HR function. I should not be a part of having someone fire. I will show you the facts and what happened, but they're just they're not helping the security team's case of that whole, we're holier than thou, like the bad cop when they do things like that. And the other thing is when you're dealing with an incident and you have someone that did make a mistake, have empathy. It's already done. Now you have to fix it. So
Really?
throwing the book at them and, yes, they're gonna have to go through training. There's procedures you need to follow. I'm not saying that you don't do that, but we're all human, and, if you don't think like that and you think of the actual person, I mean, this is all human based. We're trying to protect people and systems that help people.
Yeah. You have to normalize failure in your day-to-day operations, and you have to say like, "Hey, it's okay to fail," because if you're
Right,
not growing and you're not learning how to solve the problems because like we said, dude, the ground is changing beneath our feet, and so we're gonna need perspective, like you're talking
right.
about. You need people with character, with depth, with new perspectives because no one person has an infinite perspective. You need that broad approach. And I think is this kind of what drives like you being kind of an accessibility champion, right? Because you want the perspectives from everybody, right?
So let me dive into that. So I learned about accessibility at DQ. And the reason why I learned about it, it wasn't that I sought out um, the role of a director of security at an accessibility company. I'll be honest, I have a goal of being a CISO by the time I'm 50. There was a director of security role that came up, um, and that's the kind of role that I wanted. But knowing that I was going into a director of security role, I did everything that I believe you should, when you're coming into a new role, especially at an organization, read all the read all of the suggested reading. Go back and go over some all hands or all minds meetings. Go through the SKO training, the security or the sales training, because it's going to give you the highest level of what the company builds and what do they sell, if it's services or product. And in doing that, I learned that I was doing it all wrong. So when we're doing security, and I thought back to my other roles, even with security awareness training, if the security awareness training isn't usable by everyone, then you've already created the risk. You have people that potentially are low vision or blind, and they have to go through the security training that they're bound to do by their job. Do you honestly think that everyone is doing the security awareness training? The security team probably thinks so because the box is checked. But I hate to tell you, they might be having a family member help them because there's no other way to get through the freaking training. There's
Hmm.
password managers that screen reader users can't fully use because they're not accessible. So how are they supposed to be utilizing their passwords when we CISA, I think it was last year or 2024, they put out a little video of when you give a mobile device for the first time to a kid, what are the 4 things you need to give? And one of them was a password manager. Well, what if that child's blind?
Yeah.
What if they need to utilize the screen reader as an example? That's not the only piece of accessibility. But what it did was it made me rethink about security as a whole. And again, security should fit who you're securing. So at DQ,
Ooh.
because we had multiple backgrounds of people and users, the program had to be made accessible. There was no other way around it. So when I created the security awareness training, because none of the even to date, there are some um, security awareness training offerings that are more accessible, but no one's close. You're never going to be 100%, neither in security, correct? But
Mhm.
there's no one that's really as far as they need to be truly usable. So think about that. The major security awareness training providers to major corporations and people working, they're not getting the same training that they should. And don't even think about it as an accessibility piece. Think about it as you're not getting what you paid for. You you spent
Mhm.
hundreds of thousands of dollars on a tool to secure your team, and not everyone is secured. You bought
Yep.
something this the training is supposed to be for everyone. And
Yep.
then even the policies, if the policies have, you know, an incident response policy typically has a diagram, right? Of this, and this, and call this person, whatever. Well, if that diagram doesn't have alt text to it, a screen reader user is not going to be able to identify what they need to do in a security incident. And in a security incident, it's already high stress. So if they can't utilize the information that you think, and that's the thing, most people in security don't realize that this exists, but there are there's no GRC tool currently that is tracking any of this risk. And I'm guaranteeing that there are multiple companies and maybe even some of your clients that and not on purpose, it's because it's lack of knowing. I didn't know
Yeah.
truly how important digital accessibility was to security until I worked at DQ. I was aware um, that people had assistive devices. I mean, I went to college graduations and I would see people graduate with degrees, and I just kind of assumed that it was taken care of. But
Yep.
I want to teach people in security that it is important and that um, we need to be looking at security from a different perspective and go back to the basics. If we're not if we're not doing user testing before we roll out a tool, we're already behind.
So
If you buy some like DevSec training if you buy DevSec training that devs don't like, good luck. Good luck rolling that
Hmm.
out and them actually doing it.
Well, it's like any capability, right? One of the things that's core to, how we implement security at Paramify, and it's in our tool, it is you have a risk solution that has capabilities, and how good that capability is. I mean, there's integration responsibilities they need to set up to make sure that the encryption is working, and whatever it is that the capability must implement. There's the adoption piece,
Right.
and the function must be adopted. And in my whole career, in cyber, I never really saw that as
Right.
something that you would look at. And I think it's just because people don't think about it. They overlook it.
Right.
Oh yeah, here's this security training. I walked through it. Okay, cool. It looks like, and everybody does this. Yeah, everybody does this, so that's all there has been. But absolutely, in this interconnected world where we're leveraging SaaS tools, it's really important that we understand what our responsibilities are for implementing a tool. And I think that's coming to the fore in 20x. I'm really excited about it.
I agree.
Justin, I could talk to you forever, man. I feel a real connection to you. Um, Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing right now, and how they could engage Rhymetec. And we're really big fans over here. But tell us a
And
little bit more
likewise.
about you. Yeah.
So you could go to rhymetec.com or also find us on LinkedIn. We're providing VCSO services and internal auditing, pen testing services as well. We're making a big push in the federal space, and that's very exciting to me. We're going to be able to be supporting um, I think a lot of times people these days think about security, especially in cybersecurity. We think about digital assets, but I think we've often forgotten about printed out diagrams that might contain CUI for building a tank. I mean, that still needs to be secure, and who's, who's, has access to that, and is that on a floor that a lot of people could see and it's passed around and controlling that. So and for me professionally, um, generally when you're applying cybersecurity at an organization, you're applying it to that organization. What was very appealing to me here was one, I was a client of Rhymetec's, so that was very helpful. At DQ, we utilized them to help us in our efforts for ISO 27001, and then being able to work with multiple clients in multiple different verticals and different fields and of different sizes, all at one time. And even my colleagues, I mean, maybe they do, but um, if I could have redone my background and restarted it, I would have liked to have gotten into a role like this early on, because I mean, I did in a sense provide those type of services in the service, so I did get that. But if I didn't go into the military and I was in corporate world, I'd want to get into the services side because it allows you to apply security at its scale rather than just at one organization. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I think what that does is you might your first job out of university might be in the healthcare, and then your whole career you just stay in healthcare security, and that's cool. I mean, if you like that, but to me, being able to be looking at things from a FedRAMP perspective, PCI DSS, ISO 27001, SOC 2, different businesses need different things that fit that business, and being able to do that um, is exciting to me.
I love it. Yep. That perspective is just worth so much. And I
Yeah,
mean, we use vCISO services, right? For that very same reason, is we need that perspective, and
right.
we really value it. Justin, thank you so much for coming on the
Thank you for the
podcast today and
opportunity.
fighting through the Riverside issues.
Yeah,
Appreciate you, man. It'll work out. Keaton and Seth, they'll get it. They'll get it perfect, man.
I appreciate it.
Hey, Thanks so much, man. I'll talk.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. Yeah.
Bye.